When I became pregnant at 16, I was in high school, fifth form, which is the equivalent of year 11 in Australia today. I thought I was going to become a teacher. Though after being pregnant and giving birth and subsequently adopting my daughter out, I felt I couldn't go back to school to complete my final year. So I went to work and I chose a bank, which I stayed with for 10 years. And as I was always good with numbers, I very quickly rose through the ranks. Though 10 years later, after giving birth to the twins, I wanted something different. And this opportunity just came to me. 4 weeks' work at Dreamworld, a theme park in Australia, counting money. And those 4 weeks turned into 14 years. It was a great place to work and it was so much fun. How could it not be? It's a theme park. Though, what happened in the round 95, a CFO, my boss, he said to me, Karen, you are never going to get paid what you're worth until you go and get that bit of paper. Best advice I've ever received. So very quickly, I found myself working full time, studying at Bond University, a private university in Australia that has 3 semesters a year. So, and because of my 10-year or 20-year work experience, because I was 38 by this stage, I was able to go straight into a master's instead of an undergrad. And this I thrived at. I loved it. It was so great studying and working. The only problem is that I didn't really look after me as much as I could have. But anyway, in 2 and a third years, I had completed my master's. Very quickly completed my CPA, and then I was an accountant that could go anywhere in the world. And as the boys were traveling, my husband and I decided we could move back to Sydney. I'd never really lived there as an adult because I left when I was 19. That, and of course, the core reason being Kim lives in Sydney, I decided that that would be a great place for us. And it was. I quickly started to thrive in what I was doing professionally, rising the ranks, becoming a financial controller, and then the owner of that hotel that I was working at the time then offered me an opportunity to go and work as a CFO in a publicly listed company that he was a director of and a major shareholder. So that's what we did. And that's where I really thrived. So by then, here I am, nearly 50, and I am not in a great space physically. Okay. I thought I was. I knew I was overweight. But what I never realized was how much I was using unhealthy avoidance tactics to get through the day. I was the first person in and the last person to leave every day. If anyone ever said to me, how do you cope with stress? I would have said, I never get stressed. And my assumption was correct because I was always in this heightened state. I never went up and down. I was always in a high. I never came down. And the fact that I was drinking a bottle of wine every day just to get through the day and get through everything that I needed to do was not healthy in any way. And of course, when you're aware and when you start to, and you honestly believe that there are no coincidences in the world, you start to look back, and I can clearly see how the world decided to go, Karen, you're not looking after yourself. And then Dan passed. In 2011, he passed. And I didn't want to be a grieving mother in any way. So the day after his funeral, I went straight back to work. Avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. I can't deal with losing another child. Like, I've already lost one, and that relationship, even though she's back in my life, isn't great. I can't lose another child. So I worked harder and I drank more and I continued to be in total avoidance. And then, of course, 15 months later, the universe grabbed me and said, hey, you didn't wake up when Dan passed. Here's another loss event for you to deal with. And if you don't wake up from this, there'll be more and there'll be more and there'll be more, which I feel would have been health issues. So I was made redundant from my much loved CFO role. The company was merging with another, and through that merger process, I became redundant. Now, if Dan hadn't passed, that would have been the worst thing for me. My job was my identity. So how on earth was I going to cope without my identity? In hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened because it assisted me to stop. And that's what we all need to do. When any loss comes into our life, we have to stop. But what do? We don't. We avoid more and avoid more and avoid more and push it down and push it down and push it down until it becomes so depressed, so suppressed, it becomes depressed, which turns it into depression. And we wonder why we don't know how to deal with loss. It's because we don't stop. We just keep on going. But thankfully, I stopped. And my first step was for me to look in the mirror at who I was. And there was nothing about the person who reflected back that I liked. But I vowed to actually become my own best friend because that is the place where I knew I needed to be to heal me, to look after me, to put my own oxygen mask on first. So that's what happened. And from there, I went into become a life coach and I dived into loss. And through that process of diving into loss, I eventually not only became my own best friend, but then I looked and I went, I now need to understand Kim. I need to understand what has happened to her. Why? Why is she the way she is? What has happened to her? And that is how we co-created our amazing mother-daughter relationship because of the journey of me looking at myself and saying, I don't like who you are. And your career was not there for you. You gave up your health and your emotions and you suppressed so much just to get through the day. You got lost. You turned very masculine. You turned angry. You were not living and loving your life. And that stopping was the best thing I could have done, not only for myself, but for my relationship with my beautiful daughter and for every single relationship that I have in my life. Your career will only take you so far. And what happens when they decide to make you redundant, that you are redundant? It's always about you first and then your relationships. That's the gift that I have received.